Alright, hey you guys, this is me, Max. Today we're going to start a bit of our new series called the Aftergame, where I play a game, then explore a bit my own gameplay, and try and find some faults with it and see where I can improve. Let us pause the game really quick, as I also put down my fine McDonald's cup. There we go. Now that that is out of the way. Alright, this is a TVT on Star Station, and since this is the beginning of the series, I want to inform you of a few things. I am in Bronze League. I'm sorry, but it's a thing. So, what's kind of the point of this series, though, is to see, kind of where I can improve in my own playstyles to try to get out of Bronze League. But if you're going to start a series, I suppose it's good to start at the bottom, as you will probably see when I also start recording, say, my League of Legends games. Now, with that out of the way, let's try and get this started. Now, we are going to ×2 this, and we'll just turn on the production tab. I remember D is the key for that. I'll try and remember that next time. Alright. Now, my plan going into this game was, before the game loaded, I was going to go with a more standard Marine tank medevac composition. And right before the game loaded and I'm waiting for him to load into the game, I realized, you know what? How about let's just go with a, kind of standard Marine Marauder medevac build, because right now, since I am in Bronze League, it's more important for me to get fundamentals down, like, say, getting on top of your macro, like constantly building SCVs, or trying to not get supply blocked, pretty much at any point. Now, we can start to dive into the more analytical stuff. Alright, now he starts with a refinery way before I do, but my thought process was, well, if I get a wall off, I can't be exposed to any sort of early game Hellion harassment, or just really kind of ballsy Marine / Marauder play. So my point is going to be to try and kind of make my wall off, build a couple of Marines, and then expand and use those few forces to kind of hold that very small choke, which is very good for me. Now I go into scout the base, see what he has, see that he has a gas and a barracks. My little SCV almost dies to the Marine, but I do get him out, so that's kind of nice. He sees that, puts the Marine on the ramp, which is really the correct choice. Let's see, we get this. I've already had my orbital. Now he doesn't, though, so there's a point in his play, but I suppose it's Bronze League, you can't exactly get too angry at a person. Now, drop the tech lab first, simply because you always like those kind of early game upgrades. And at this point, I see that he has one gas and one... I thought he has one gas and one barrack, so I figured, he's probably not going to go for a whole lot of early harassment. So I figured I could take a bit of a risk and start my natural, like already building on the low ground as opposed to building and floating, which I know can be dangerous, but I figured I'd be safe. Now, I figured I'd also try and complete the wall off a little bit here. And I put those guys in guys from the barracks into the bunker, so I at least have that front covered. So now I can focus more back on my macro. Now I notice that I'm floating a lot of minerals here, so at the time I figured, you know what, let's at least use some of that minerals to get an extra refinery, so we can start building up a little bit more gas, because I do want to do this play and go for the 2 engineering base. There we go. Because this is one of those, goes back to my point of wanting to work on more of my fundamentals, which is just trying to make sure that I don't, trying to work on my macro, say not floating as much just resources and working on my upgrades. Now I see that I'm getting low on supply, so I just queue up some supply depots here soon. Which I know queuing can be a bad thing, but as hell, even Day9 or Husky or anybody will tell you, or insert famous StarCraft 2 caster, commentator, etc., etc. It's better to queue than to not be building anything at all. Prime example, I probably could have gotten a concussive shell way, way earlier. I had the gas for such a long time, so I need to be more on top of my tech labs, or really just more on top of my, a little bit on top of my like tech lab upgrades. The engineering bays are a little bit bigger, so they enter my thought process a bit more. And now I'm getting my first starport for reactor medevacs. And I also noticed that, wow, I'm floating a lot of minerals, but of course I don't know how much he's floating at this time, so I go and add on extra barracks to try and lower that mineral count. Here's another bit of a play. I probably could have timed that a little bit better of the placing of the armory to get the 2-2 weapon and armor for my infantry. Now, I am going to use this factory to place more widow mines and try and grab a little bit of control over the map. And in an effort to grab more control, I do grab sensor. Well, I'm going to grab sensor towers plural. This one isn't building yet. Because a bit of a really big fault is that I can't deal with, say, early Banshee harassment. So where's this right now? Here's another thing that I could. I took the time to land the factory, but I didn't bother to actually like make the frickin' things, the widow mines. So there's a bit of an increase in play. Oh, not good. Where was I? Well, that happened. That's a thing. Where were we? Okay, we're not doing too terrible. You see, this is actually... I'm glad we actually messed that up. See, I took the time to land it. Didn't even start... Oh, that's why. I did see that, so... That's why you see me queuing up the supply depots. I'm floating so much minerals at this point, it doesn't even matter. Which is why I'm, again, building on these extra barracks. I probably can also work on really getting my gas way, way sooner in my natural, to where that little weird segment where they won't exactly finish up at the same time. I mean, they're not too terribly far apart, but still it's something to do. Now, yes, this is when I go for my first drop. I know I could have probably started to drop way, way earlier, but I don't really have any information, and right now I'm trying to also get better about using all of my energies on my command centers for more mules and less scans. So I figured that a good way to scout is just to go for a kind of mid-gamey drop. Now I do scan ahead to see what he has, which might be a little bit indicatory of things, but then I see, well, wow, he has no freaking command center. I wonder where it is. Flying in, I see, oh, well, it's here. Or here's A1, so I just assumed, alright. I understood that he moved it. Tried to stem, do a little bit of damage, but not a lot. Move away. Now this is a really pivotal point. After I afterburn it away, I see that he has just all these Hellions. It's a Hellion Marine combination. And later on he'll sprinkle in even air, and it doesn't really have any cohesive like workingness to it. I would understand if, say, maybe you were in a Terran versus Zerg and you just need something to deal with a mass Zergling, but I mean, while I understand the idea of the Hellion Marine against the Marine Marauder medevac, I still don't. There's just way better ways to go about doing it. So I mean, that kind of contributed to my kind of play style. And once I realized this, that he didn't really have any way to stop me. Like I knew that once once I saw that he didn't have his CC here and there was still minerals, I'm not gonna lie, I was feeling a little bit penisy. But anyway, now I'm gonna send the medevac back home, back to rejoin the rest of the forces. At this time, I realized, well, we're gonna have to soon take a third because this is almost mined out. We have incredible oversaturation, which I probably could have solved earlier, but it didn't bother me that much. I do have 3-3 on the way and almost finished, and I do have vehicle and ship plating, because since your medevacs, I figured, oh, my medevacs move faster than the rest of my army, I might want to get them armor because they're going to be ahead of the fight sometimes. Now I do grab my third command center, float it up, and then move it down to here. I'm going to turn it into an orbital eventually. Ah, yes, this is also when actually, there's another point. I'm making, again, widow mines to try and at least control Zelnago watchtowers. And I know what you're saying. Well, when they're burrowed, they don't give you sight. Yes, but once I see what unit they send to hold the watchtower, I can immediately just unburrow, get the site and burrow right back in and wait for the next unit. And I'm going to try and pretty much have a widow mine on all 4 of the watchtowers, although I don't think that necessarily works. Now, yeah, see, there's the moving it for that. Yeah, I don't think that happens. Now, at this point, I'm floating a butt ton of minerals. For a while, I wasn't spending money. Oh, yeah, and here's another bit of a point. I remember specifically during that point that I was tapping individual A and D keys for Marines and Marauders, and I realized after the fact that you can just hold them down. So that's a bit of a thing. And now, I know it doesn't seem like a whole bunch. Also, 3 completing, and 3 level 3 armor per ship completing or starting, which is also nice. But yes, I realize that a couple seconds don't necessarily matter, but when you get to, say, a lot of barracks, because I realize, wow, I'm floating a lot of minerals, so I add on more barracks. So when you get to like this level of like how many barracks, you need to just hold it, otherwise those couple of seconds can add to a couple of Marines not popping out at the same time, which can be a little bit annoying. Now, I do notice this at some point. I noticed a while ago that he had Banshees and Vikings. Now, the Banshees, I don't get, really. I mean, see, I notice now that, wow, that's weird. I understood the Vikings because I have medevacs, and if you take out the medevacs from a Marine Marauder medevac, you kind of take out one of the pivotal units of the kind of build. The Banshees really threw me off. Ah, yes, and this is just me basically maxed out, getting everything set up so I can at least do it. I got a couple of Vikings with more armor than he has, so I'm hoping that I can just take out his Vikings and kind of ensure myself air control. I also build, because after you run out of 3-3 at the engineering bay, there isn't really a whole lot of points, so I just grab structure armor and high-sec auto tracking for my planetary fortresses, so because it's pretty much the most relevant thing. I also go to build, I need to do this, say, earlier also, is another really, really big point. Although I do probably want to give myself more room to, say, tack on add-ons. Now, at this point, this is where I'm to the point where I'm maxed out, where, like, I could have gotten maxed out so much sooner if I would have just been on top of, like, putting barracks and extra not supply depots, although those are nice too. Oh, I'm such an idiot. Pause. I forgot about this. And we'll go back to about here. There we go. Now, I'm pretty sure this is where, yeah, you can see me starting to pick up another drop worth. Now, this is not exactly something that I'm proud to admit, but I already had a medevac full of stuff waiting here. Forgot about it, filled up almost another medevac's worth, and figured I'll go drop with this. Now, if we just actually, we speed this up, follow it, or actually, better yet, you know what? This actually might further improve my point. I realized in a few seconds that I had 2 drops. I had 2 dropships full of stuff waiting, and I didn't do a damn thing about it. Also, on a quick note, I figured I'd go for a Ghost Academy, because what I've seen, his buildings are very clumped up, so one well-placed nuke can at least take out all the add-ons and cause a lot of structural damage. Anyway, back to my point about the drops. There we go. You see, I see I have 1. Hang on, actually, this is weird. It's not actually working. See that I have 1, go back, I basically select the other, then realize, well, I'm a moron, and I go to move it up. And then realize, alright, well, I suppose I can drop with 2, which is something I could be doing more also, is dropping with more than 1 medevac versus forces. I see all these juicy supply depots, and I just try and kill whatever I can, take out a factory and a reactor, see just a massive amount of Hellions and just afterburner and just get away, and I don't lose a single thing. And I do get an achievement from this that you don't see, but I do. Now, this is also something that he could have done. He could have, A, at least lowered all the supply depots, and B, thought about where he placed his buildings a little bit more. It matters for Terran way more than necessarily Zerg or Protoss, simply because, I mean, we produce out of our buildings. I mean, Protoss have warp gate technology, and Zerg make out of hives. It comes out of one structure. So that's a bit of a gripe. Although I will give this dude credit. I didn't notice this at this point in the game, but I see it now, and I do eventually see it later. He got Reapers really, really late into the game, and I know it seems like a weird choice, but you can actually do a lot of damage with late game Reapers. It's much like a drop. So, to the point where you can get kind of messed up by it. So this dude gets this Rye Not Now brother gets a lot of credit for late game Reapers. Albeit the Hellbat, Hellion, and Marine combo is weird. Although I get it with Hellbats. It makes a bit more sense of a combination with Hellbats, simply because he's kind of trying to, in a Hellbat, do what a Marauder can do. Let's see, a Hellbat does 30 damage, and it's a spray and an AoE, and versus light, or 20 damage versus light, it's 33. Marauder does 13 damage, 26 versus armored. So, I mean, really, that might be a thing. That might be kind of good. Versus light units. So he's basically trying to, with a Hellbat, basically just make the Marauderness a little bit obsolete. Which isn't too terrible of an idea that I might actually have to try. So, why not now? My next Terran game against another Terran, I just might do that. So, I give you props, my man. But of course, 135 health with 1 armor. Let's see, versus 125 health with, again, it'll be 1 armor, but it doesn't matter. 13. Wow, does that do 20 damage by itself? Level 2. And I deal how much with a Marauder? 13. So yeah, I think we can do some real damage. Of course, that's another bit of the plus of why Marauders are doing this still, as opposed to, say, Hellbats, is because we have Concussive Shell. I suppose it's a little less of a thing in TVT, but oh well. Now, the game is clearly going to be over rather soon, so I have my Go-Go Gadget scouting factory on a patrol path, just to see what I can catch. Now, after that drop happens, instead of just relaxing, calming down, and trying to build back up the supply lead, he just 1As out of panic, and he basically runs his units into a straight line. He gets all kinds of props for trying to pincer maneuver me here, but he doesn't do it at the proper time. I see this, I go to unload these guys, realize, oh, well, that's him basically gone. After a couple of seconds of just basically A-ing all my way through factories, I also scan for any potential bases that I have to worry about. Again, another scan for another base that isn't there, and I just pretty much 1A and win. Now, this is also why I got the extra armor, is because they got here before everything else did. And if you another brighter player might take advantage of that. I stem kill a CC once I realized CC is dead, or that the CC was dead. I knew I had it. And of course he calls GG. I say GG, well played. And then he leaves. So I mean, I'm fairly happy with that. It was a very good win. So if we had to take anything away from this, really it's to say build more barracks earlier and try not, of course the standard, try not to get supply blocked too early. And yeah, that's really kind of my main points right now. And apply much more early game pressure. So those are my kind of 3 points that I at least need to do in TVT, although it's probably a point prevalent in everything. But I think that'll be it for me today, you guys. Now all I have to do is finish our standard little outro and we'll be done with the video. If you liked me, you can press the subscribe button at the top. If you liked or disliked the video, you can press the like or dislike button. And if you would like to talk about the video, you can do so in the comment section below. Alright. I will see you guys later.